Squishies! Welcome back to another vlog. This is Star vs. the Forces of Evil, Season 3, Episode 6, Club Snubbed and Stranger Danger. The first thing that jumps out at me about these is that this is an entire episode, 2 linked segments with no Marco at all. And I don't know if that's happened before. There may have been 2 consecutive Marco-less segments in the Battle for Muni, but I don't really count that, as I think that was broadcast all as one, TV movie type thing. Other than that, yeah, I can't think of any time that there were 2 consecutive segments in which Marco didn't appear at all. And that's the case here. It's really interesting because the show really presented him and Star as not even protagonist and deuteragonist, but as co-protagonists for pretty much the entire first 2 seasons. And now Marco is taking more of a backseat role. Star is shifting forward to be kind of the sole protagonist. And it'll be interesting to see if they maintain that or bring them back together into that shared role, or maintain Star as protagonist and Marco as deuteragonist, even if they do bring the 2 of them back together. I don't know. I mean, he's still prominently in the opening credits, so I assume that they're going to be, back again at some point. But I don't know how long that's going to be. So getting into the actual content of the episodes. The first one, Club Snub, was very much the kind of episode that in the past would have been centered on Marco and Star's school. That kind of social dynamic thing was very much an Earth thing in prior episodes. But now, we have Muni being used as the setting for it, which is a sign of just how much the show has shifted focus to Muni and to the more fantastical elements, which were always present, but in the first 2 seasons they were as likely to be a source of comedy within an episode whose plot is essentially mundane, as they were to be a story engine. And now those are the primary story engine. So we have Star at essentially a dance where she's being, snubbed by her ex, but woven in with all of that is the political balance of Muni and her role as a princess, which, ties her in to kind of the traditional princess role of cementing alliances through marriage. That's not what princesses typically are for in modern stuff. This decade, there's been a rapid shift in the depiction of princesses toward figures that have more power in their own right and aren't just pawns in diplomatic games and ways of linking houses by spawning babies that descend from both, but rather have some value in their own selves and power of their own, be that political or very often magical. So it's interesting to see Star being kind of put in that position, but also notably there isn't a distinction drawn between the roles of the princesses and the princes in this episode. They are perfectly symmetrical, fulfilling the exact same roles and even lined up opposite each other. That down to having 2 more human ones. One that's just a pony head reflected by one that's a massive pair of legs with a bird on top. And then 2 kind of fish monster people. Kind of keeping a very clear balance between the two, and that in turn is reflected in their essentially equal roles, including boys and girls alternating who asks who to dance. Or at least they appeared to be alternating. It might have just been whoever asked, whoever felt like asking first. So there was clearly an effort being made to depict that kind of traditional diplomatic role of the princess while also not including its misogynistic origins that reduced women to baby makers. And that's, a valiant effort. I think it mostly succeeds, though it is notably the male parents who get into a fight that verges on starting a war. So there is still a little of that, men are warriors, women are diplomats kind of a thing going. But at the same time, that's somewhat belied by Thomas's massive demon mother. She's of just a fun design of just this massive, massive demonic woman in a dress. Dressed actually rather formally, I guess would be the word. So that was some interesting stuff going on in that episode. Kind of a push and a pull. Overlying what was basically a teen drama trying to make the other person jealous kind of a thing. The second episode was clearly more plot stuff. It looks like Eclipsa is shaping up to be a major recurring something. They're deliberately casting... Sorry about the sniffle. They're deliberately casting doubt on whether she is evil or misunderstood. In all likelihood, a little both would be my guess. But that said, she probably is to some degree manipulating Star and probably really is doing something to corrupt Glossaric to her own ends. But again, how much of that is her being evil and how much of that is needing to protect herself from very judgmental magic council? We don't know. What we do know is that, as Star notes, none of them could come up with a good reason to imprison her and Crystal for however long it was. A very long time. So, yeah. She presents an interesting figure. Definitely some degree of moral ambiguity going on there. Again, she does not come across as villainous, and her motivations sound good, and it'll be interesting to see where the show takes it. What I suspect is going to happen is that she's going to prove to be, cackling over the top generic evil, kind of like Toffee was, where there really is a legitimate grievance of monsters against mutants, but he's power hungry and evil and manipulative and sadistic and all those things, unrelated to the idea of a monster revolt or attempt to achieve equality. He's just kind of bad. And I could see it going either way, but based on how they went before, I think they'll make some noise about, challenging the status quo of Muni, but ultimately the people trying to do so will be depicted as being evil not for trying to change it, but independently of trying to change it, and therefore the attempt to change it will kind of get shoved aside in favor of defeating the evil. Because that's how these things tend to go. It's pretty rare that you see genuine change happening in this kind of setting or this kind of show. So, not holding out a lot of hope for it. That said, they could surprise me. You know, you never know. We'll find out as we go. Anyway, I think that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Patreon for early access to vlogs, essays, let's plays, and more. And I'll see you all next time. Bye!